I didn't even see her until I was about 40 feet out. The bridge this is down in Plaquemine, Louisiana. Little two-lane thing over one of the bayou channels south of the river didn't have lights. No reflectors, no lane markers, nothing. The parish stopped maintaining it years ago when they rerouted the highway. But it was still technically open, and my GPS had it as the fastest line to the depot in Port Allen. So I took it. 2:30 in the morning, November. Fog sitting right on the water, thick enough that my low beams just lit up a wall of white about 60 feet ahead. And there she was, standing in my lane, barefoot, nightgown, arms at her sides. I hit the brakes hard enough to shift my load. I could hear freight sliding in the trailer behind me, pallets moving, straps groaning. Stopped maybe 15 feet from her. She didn't flinch, didn't move. She was looking at my headlights like they were something she'd been waiting for. I sat there for maybe 10 seconds, just breathing. Then I grabbed my flashlight and climbed down. She was 30, 35. No shoes. Her feet were cut up, torn on the ball, blackened on the heel she'd been walking on asphalt for a while. The nightgown was thin, faded, the kind you'd buy at a dollar store and wear until it falls apart. It was maybe 45 degrees out. She wasn't shivering. Her eyes were clear. That's the detail that won't leave me. She was not confused. She was not high. She was not sleepwalking. She was looking at me the way you look at a door, deciding whether to go through it. I said, "Ma'am, are you okay? Do you need help?" She said, "I need a ride somewhere." "Not home. Somewhere." "Where do you need to go?" She gave me a road name and a number. Said it like she'd memorized it, not the way you say your own address, more like the way you'd recite a phone number someone wrote on your hand. I don't pick up hitchhikers. Nobody in this business does. But this was a woman standing barefoot on a bridge in the middle of the night in rural Louisiana, with blood on her feet, and no phone, and no car, and nothing around for miles in any direction. I am not leaving her there. I helped her into the cab. She climbed up without help, moved fast, like she knew the window was small. She sat in the passenger seat and locked the door immediately. Not the casual way, the way you lock a door when you're thinking about what's behind you. She looked at me and said, "Do you have a phone?" I handed her mine. She didn't call anyone. She just held it. Put it in her lap with both hands over it, like she needed to know it existed. The address was 12 minutes east. I drove. She didn't talk. I didn't push it. You drive enough late-night miles and you learn when someone is holding themselves together by choosing not to speak. The house was at the end of a gravel road. Small, yellow siding, patchy lawn, chain-link fence with the gate open. Porch light was on one of those motion sensor floods. Truck in the driveway. A ram, mud on the wheel wells, not new but maintained. Someone was home. I pulled up and the porch light kicked brighter. The front door opened before I'd even set the brake. A man came out. Big guy. Work boots, jeans, undershirt. He was already walking toward my truck. Not rushing, not alarmed. Walking the way you walk to meet a pizza delivery. When the woman saw him, everything changed. She made a sound I have never heard from another person. It wasn't a scream. It was lower, deeper. It came from somewhere below her chest, like her body was making a noise her mouth hadn't authorized. She pushed herself backward against the passenger door so hard the whole cab rocked. Her hand found the door handle not to open it, to hold it shut. I looked at the man. He was at my window now, smiling, hands in his pockets. He leaned in close to the glass and said friendly, easy, like we were neighbors. "Thanks for finding her, buddy. She wanders off sometimes. Got a condition. Does this every couple months." I looked at her. She was shaking her head. Not fast. Slow, deliberate. Her lips were moving and nothing was coming out. Her eyes were locked on the man through the windshield. I looked at him, still smiling, still relaxed. He hadn't raised his voice. He hadn't moved aggressively. He looked exactly like a tired husband, dealing with something he dealt with before. I have thought about the next 3 seconds every single day for 4 years. I could not read this. I am being dead honest with you. I could not tell if this was a woman with a psychiatric condition who had a husband trying to take care of her, or if this was a woman who had gotten out, and I was about to hand her back to the thing she was running from. Both stories fit the evidence perfectly. The bare feet, the nightgown, the memorized address, the terror, all of that works both ways. Mental health crisis looks exactly the same as escape from the outside. That's the thing nobody tells you. He walked around to the passenger side, opened the door from the outside. She hadn't locked it from that side. She didn't fight him. That's what I keep going back to. She went completely still, like a switch flipped, like an animal that knows fighting doesn't work anymore. He took her arm, gently, not rough, walked her toward the house. She looked back at me once, over her shoulder, and that look, I will take that look into the ground with me. I sat in the driveway for 10 minutes, engine running, hazards on, staring at the closed front door. Then I drove to a Shell station about 4 miles up the highway, open 24 hours. I went inside and asked the cashier to use their phone, and I called 911. I told the dispatcher what happened, gave the address, described the woman, the man, the whole sequence. There was a pause on the line, long enough that I checked to make sure the call was still connected. Then the dispatcher said, "Sir, we've received calls about that address before." I waited for more, for context, for anything. That was it. I said, "So are you sending someone?" She said, "We'll dispatch a unit to do a welfare check." When? Tonight. I don't know if they did. I've never been able to find out. I don't know her name. I don't know his. I've driven past that road twice since then. The house is still there. The truck is still in the driveway. The porch light still works. If I read the situation right, then a woman with a serious condition wandered onto a bridge, and I brought her home to the man who cares for her. And the worst thing I did was waste the dispatcher's time. If I read it wrong, I carried her back in an 18-wheeler with my own hands on the wheel. I don't know which one it is. I don't know. And the bridge doesn't know. It's just a bridge, fog and concrete and no lights. But every time I cross it, I check for someone standing in the lane. Story 2, Point Pleasant. I was running steel coil from Columbus down to Huntington on US 35, and about 6 miles east of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, right around the lake and exit, my GPS recalculated. No warning, no construction alerts, No traffic. The route just changed. New instruction. Turn right in 1 mile. Cross river via Route 7. I've been through Point Pleasant enough times to know there's no crossing there. There used to be. The Silver Bridge. You might know the story. December 15th, 1967. Rush hour. The I-bar chain on the north side snapped, and the whole structure dropped into the Ohio River in less than 60 seconds. 46 people. Cars, trucks, a bus. They built the replacement a mile south the Silver Memorial Bridge, and I've used it 100 times. But the original approach roads are still there. Both sides, Ohio and West Virginia. They're old county roads now. They curve down through the trees, follow the original bridge alignment, and stop at the river. No signs, no barriers, just pavement running to water. At least, that's how it used to be. I didn't take the turn. I knew better. But the truck behind me did. In my mirror, a Peterbilt, dark-colored, running heavy, took the right without slowing down, like his GPS told him to, and he had no reason to question it. I pulled onto the shoulder. The approach road curves through a patch of trees and then straightens out toward the river. I lost sight of the Peterbilt behind the tree line, but I could hear the engine, still moving, then accelerating downhill grade. The road slopes toward the water. Then brakes, hard. Not a skid, not a jackknife, a controlled emergency stop. The kind where you feel the ABS grab and you ride it out. Then the horn. One long, continuous blast. The kind you hold down when the world just did something wrong. I put it in reverse and backed up to the turn. Went down the approach road with my brights on. First thing I noticed, the road was in decent shape. No painted lines, no reflectors. But the asphalt wasn't crumbling the way you'd expect for a road that goes nowhere. Someone was using it, or maintaining it. I didn't know why. The Peterbilt was stopped about 60 feet from the river. In front of it, a guardrail low, galvanized, maybe 3 feet tall on wooden posts. Standard highway rail. Beyond that, a gravel slope in the Ohio River, black and wide under a clear sky. The driver was standing at the guardrail with his hands on it, looking at the water. I walked over. GPS, I said. He didn't look at me. He pointed out at the river. In the moonlight nearly full that night, I could see them. The old Silver Bridge abutments. 2 concrete pillars still standing in the river, maybe 40 feet apart, with nothing between them. Stumps in the water, like broken teeth. You could see exactly where the bridge used to connect. You could see the gap where it wasn't. It showed a bridge, he said. His hands were shaking. I was doing 45. At 45 on that slope, if the guardrail hadn't been there or hadn't held, he'd have gone into the Ohio River in a loaded Peterbilt. The river is 30, 40 feet deep at that crossing. They might not have found him for weeks. We both checked our phones. Same navigation app. Both showed a bridge at this location. Blue line, clean route. Estimated crossing time, 3 minutes. The bridge on our screens didn't correspond to any known structure. It was just a line across the river where a line used to be, drawn by an algorithm that never learned it fell. We drove back to the highway together. At the Marathon station on Route 2, I told the woman behind the counter what happened. She reached under the register and pulled out a composition notebook, the kind kids use in school. She opened it and wrote down the date, the time, and which direction we'd been heading. "You're the fifth this year," she said. "You report it?" 11 times. The county finally put the guardrail up in March. I called the sheriff's office directly. Before March, there was nothing. Just road going into the river. And the GPS company. I've submitted corrections. My son did too, through the app. It tells you it'll take 2 to 4 weeks. That was 14 months ago. I looked at the notebook. 5 entries for this year, 3 the year before. Dates, times, vehicle types. She'd been keeping a record because no one else would. I said, "Has anyone gone in?" She closed the notebook. "Not that I know of. But I work 6 to midnight. I don't know what happens at 2, 3 in the morning when the approach road is dark and someone's tired and their GPS says turn right." I crossed the real bridge that night, the Silver Memorial a mile south, looked downriver toward the old crossing. I could see the abutments, 2 stumps in the water, and on both banks, a road pointing at them, ending at the edge. I checked the GPS again last week. The bridge is still there. Blue line, clean route. 3 minutes. An algorithm is routing trucks to cross a bridge that killed 46 people in 1967, and the only things standing between it and doing it again are a 3-foot guardrail and a gas station cashier with a composition notebook. Story 3. The Causeway. The Lake Pontchartrain Causeway is 24 miles of bridge, longest span over water in the United States. 2 lanes northbound, 2 lanes southbound, divided by a concrete barrier. At night, with no traffic, it doesn't feel like a bridge. It feels like driving on the surface of the ocean. No shoreline, no landmarks, no frame of reference. Just the guardrails, the lane markings, and black water on both sides. For 24 miles. At 60 miles an hour, it takes about 24 minutes to cross. That's a long time to be over nothing. I was hauling produce from Mobile to Baton Rouge, taking the causeway north to cut time. 2:30 in the morning, January. The bridge was close to empty. I'd seen 1 car at the toll plaza heading south, and nothing since. About mile 6, I came up behind a car. White sedan, domestic, going maybe 40 in a 60 zone. I came up on it fast and dropped to match speed. Normally I'd pass there's room. The left lane was clear, but something held me. I couldn't have told you what. Some part of my brain that makes decisions before I get the memo. Then I noticed the brake lights. Tap, release, tap, release. The car didn't slow down, held 40. But every 4 or 5 seconds, the brake lights would flash. 1 quick pulse, then gone. Like a turn signal, except it was both lights, like a tick, or like a foot hitting the pedal involuntarily. I watched for a full minute. The rhythm was steady. Tap, release, tap, release. Identical interval every time. I decided to pass. Moved into the left lane, pulled up alongside. 2 people. The driver was a man, mid-40s, heavy-set, both hands on the wheel, staring straight ahead. Rigid posture. Not looking at me. Not looking at anything except the road. The passenger was a woman, about the same age. She was looking directly at me. She wasn't waving, wasn't mouthing words. She was just looking at me with an expression I have tried to describe to 4 different people and never gotten it right. It was the face of someone who needed me to exist, but didn't know how to use that fact. I pulled ahead. In my mirrors, The brake tapping continued. Tap, release, tap, release. Mile 8, mile 9. At mile 10, the car started slowing. 40, 35, 30, 20. I matched it. I was not going to leave them behind. Not out here. Mile 11, 15 miles an hour. Mile 12. The car stopped. In the right lane. On the bridge. Hazards off. Brake lights solid. Engine running. I stopped about 40 yards ahead, put my hazards on, grabbed my flashlight. In the mirror, the car was just sitting there. White paint, red taillights, black water on both sides, and nothing else in any direction. Then the passenger door opened. The woman got out and walked toward my truck. In my headlights, I was watching in the side mirror she was walking fast. Not running, but purposeful, like the window was closing. She reached my door and knocked. I opened it. "My husband took something," she said. "About 20 minutes ago. He's not responding." I was on the phone with 911 before she finished the sentence. I told them, "Lake Pontchartrain Causeway, northbound, approximately mile 12, medical emergency, male subject, possible overdose." They said Causeway police and an ambulance from Mandeville North Shore. I went to the car with my flashlight. The man was still upright in the driver's seat, held by the seatbelt, but his head was listing. His eyes were half open, not tracking. On the center console, an orange prescription bottle, no cap. The cap was on the passenger seat floor. I reached across him and put the car in park, reclined his seat, checked his breathing shallow but present, talked to him. Hey man, stay with me, help's coming." I don't know if he heard me. I kept talking anyway. The woman stood behind me, arms crossed, silent. Police got there in 11 minutes. Ambulance another 6 behind. They got him out, onto a stretcher, into the back. One of the EMTs talked to the woman. I couldn't hear what she said. Another one took my statement. Name, CDL number, what I saw, when I saw it. I pulled out and drove off the bridge onto I-12 westbound. I was 20 minutes into the drive to Baton Rouge before the math caught up. She said 20 minutes. He took the pills 20 minutes before she stopped the car. 20 minutes at 40 miles an hour is about 13 miles. They were at mile 12 when she stopped. Mile 12 minus 13 means he took the pills before they got on the bridge, before the toll plaza, before the on-ramp. She was in the car when he did it. She got in anyway, or she was already in. Either way, she let him drive onto a 24-mile bridge over Lake Pontchartrain with an empty bottle on the console. She didn't call 911 from the plaza. She didn't grab the wheel. She didn't scream. She tapped the brake. For 13 miles, she sat in the passenger seat and pressed her foot against the brake pedal, not hard enough to override. Not hard enough to stop the car, just hard enough to flash the lights. Tap, release, 13 miles of it. She was signaling. Not to him, to whoever was behind her. I was the one behind her. I don't know what happens if I'm not there. The next vehicle on the causeway that night was probably 30-40 minutes back. In 40 minutes, at 40 miles per hour, they'd be off the bridge, on the North Shore, near exits, gas stations, intersections, people. But for 24 minutes, there was nothing. Just the bridge, the water, and a woman pressing a pedal because it was the only thing she could reach. I never learned their names. I don't know if he survived past that night. I mean, in the larger sense. Whether things changed, whether he got help, whether she stayed or left or forgave whatever needed forgiving. I know this. I watch brake lights now. On every bridge, I count the taps. I measure the rhythm. Most of the time, it's just a nervous driver, someone riding the pedal. Bad habit. Nothing. But sometimes the rhythm is steady. Even. Tap, release, like a pulse. And I change lanes, and I pull up alongside, and I look. Story 4. Gary. My alternator went out on an overpass in Gary, Indiana. And if you've ever driven through Gary, you know that sentence already has a problem. It wasn't a main road. I was on one of the old connectors, Route 912 spur. Something off it. I was never entirely sure, running through the east side near the old U.S. Steel Works. My GPS kept shoving me through Gary's side streets, trying to get me back to the Borman after a closure on I-90, and the route it picked ran right across this overpass. The overpass crossed 4 lanes of surface street below. Except the surface street had been closed for years, barricades at both ends, weeds punching through the asphalt, no cars, no lights. The overpass was technically still open, but I don't think it had seen regular traffic in a decade. Lane markings were gone. Street lights were dead poles. My alternator light had been on for 20 minutes. I was nursing it, trying to make the truck stop on Grant Street. I didn't make it. Engine died right about the center of the overpass. I rolled 50 yards on momentum and stopped. 11:15 p.m. October. Temperature dropping. Tried the key. Nothing. Battery was dead. The alternator had been gone long enough to drain it completely. No start, no dash lights, no nothing. I checked my phone. 1 bar. I called dispatch. The call connected, held about 10 seconds, and dropped. Tried again. 0 bars. Whatever tower I'd been catching was gone. So, dead truck, dead phone, dark overpass, Gary, Indiana. I sat there for a while. I could see my options, and none of them were good. Walk west toward the expressway, maybe 2 miles through Gary in the dark, and hope I hit a gas station. Walk east toward nothing I could identify. Or sit in the truck until daylight and deal with it then. I didn't want to sit in the truck until morning. But then I noticed the light. Below the overpass, maybe 2 blocks east, there was a fire. Not a structure fire, a barrel fire. Orange glow, steady, the kind that's been burning for hours. And around it, people. I could see the shapes from the overpass, 6, 8 figures, moving, sitting, alive. I grabbed my flashlight and climbed down using a maintenance ladder on the south side of the overpass. Rusted rungs, but they held. Below, the surface street was cracked open. Tufts of grass in every seam. No cars, no signs. Just the road, going nowhere in both directions. I walked toward the fire. They saw me coming from 100 yards out. Not one person moved. Not one person looked alarmed. They just watched me approach the way you'd watch a deer come out of the tree line, curious, not afraid. There were 8 of them. Men and women, mixed ages, most in work jackets or heavy coats. A few folding chairs. The barrel was a 55-gallon drum, cut down, with a solid bed of coals. This fire had been maintained for a long time. I said, "Sorry to bother you folks. My truck died on the overpass. I can't get a signal out here." Is there a phone I could use? A woman mid-40s, dark hair pulled back, wearing a canvas field jacket, said, "Your alternator?" "Yeah. How'd you know?" "Happens on that overpass. Something with the electrical. We had 2 last month." Before I could process that, a man in a Carhartt jacket stood up and said, "I got a landline inside, come on." He walked me to the building behind them, an old storefront, windows boarded, signage long gone, and opened a side door with a key. Not forced, a key on a ring. Inside, it was not what I expected. Folding tables along one wall, with papers and folders on them. A map of the surrounding blocks taped to the wall, the kind you'd print from a county GIS website, with colored pushpins in it. Red ones, blue ones, a cluster of yellow near the overpass. Cots along the back wall, neatly made with actual blankets. A portable generator humming in the corner, powering a work lamp and a space heater. On the nearest table, a landline telephone. Beige, corded, the kind from a 1990s office. Plugged into a wall jack in a building with no electricity. I picked it up. Dial tone, clear. I called my company's roadside number, gave them my GPS coordinates, described the overpass. They said 2 hours for a tow. I thanked them and hung up. Back at the fire, I said, 2 hours. The woman pointed at a folding chair leaned against the wall. "Grab a seat." So I sat with them. For about 45 minutes we talked. Normal conversation. Easy. The weather. The I-90 construction. One of the men asked what I was hauling auto parts, I said. Out of a warehouse in Lansing. Another guy said he used to work at the Ford stamping plant in Chicago Heights before it closed. Talked about the commute, the shifts, the cafeteria food. A woman across the fire said her brother drove for Werner for 12 years and had his CDL pulled over a medical thing and never got it back. We talked about that for a while. These were regular people. They had jobs. I saw car keys in pockets. One of them had a phone, a real one, smartphone, recent model that buzzed a few times with texts she answered. I relaxed. Then, just after midnight, a van turned onto the street. White panel van. No company name, no markings. Headlights off, just parking lights. Moving slow, maybe 5 miles an hour. Rolling. The reaction around me was instant. The fire went out. Not stamped, a steel lid went over the barrel in one motion. Practiced. No sparks. The woman said one word, corners. Everyone moved. Not running. Walking fast with purpose to specific positions. 2 people went behind the building. 2 crouched behind cars parked on the far side of the lot. 2 went inside. The man in the Carhartt was next to me. He put his hand on my shoulder, not hard, not aggressive, just firm, and said, "Behind the wall. Don't say anything." I went behind the wall. The van rolled through the lot. I could hear the tires on the broken asphalt, crunching slow. It stopped in front of the building for what felt like 2 minutes. Engine idling, no door opening, no window rolling down. Just idling. Then it pulled forward, turned the corner, and was gone. Nobody moved for another 60 seconds. I counted. Then the lid came off the barrel. Someone fed it fresh wood. Flames came back. People returned to their chairs, one at a time, from their positions. Nobody spoke about what just happened. I sat back down. "What was that?" I said. The woman in the field jacket looked at me. Her expression was not hostile. It was not secretive. It was the face of someone who'd already calculated that explaining would take longer than the tow truck. "You're fine," she said. "That wasn't about you." That was the only answer I received. The tow truck arrived at 1:45. I shook hands with the man in the Carhartt. I thanked the woman for the chair and the fire. She said, "You break down on that overpass again. Come here. Same spot. We're here every night." The tow driver hooked my truck, and we pulled off the overpass. As we swung onto the surface street, I looked back at the lot. The fire was already rebuilt. 8 people in a circle around an oil drum, in the middle of a neighborhood that doesn't exist on any active census tract, guarding something I was never going to be told about. I asked the tow driver. He drove for a while. Then he said, "They've been out there for years. Used to be more of them. What are they doing?" He adjusted his mirror. "Depends on who you ask. I take I-90 through Gary now. Always. I never go through the side streets. But every time I pass over the east side, I look down. The fire is always there. Orange dot, low and steady, in a grid of dark blocks. I don't know what they're guarding. I don't know what the van was. I don't know why a building with no electricity has a working landline, or why the overpass kills alternators, or why a woman who runs an operation out of a boarded-up storefront in the most emptied-out city in the Midwest says one word and 8 people move like a unit. They were kind to me. That's the thing I keep circling. Whatever they are, whatever they do when the van comes, whatever the pins on that map represent, they gave me a chair, a fire, and a phone, and they talked to me like a neighbor for 2 hours. And I was sitting in the middle of something I will never understand. And the fire is still burning. Every night. In a city that everybody left. It's the only warm thing out there.